All right, everybody, on behalf of Professional Title, I want to welcome you guys to Sell High and Buy Low. Today's a little bit of a spin and a fun thing on an age-old saying that we hear, buy low and sell high. So we're going to cover today is what everyone wants. We're going to cover how to help them get it, and then we're going to give you guys a script to use. We're going to do some fun objections and ways to handle those. We're going to do a plan on how to help your sellers sell high and your buyers buy low. And then I'm going to give you guys a script that you could use word for word if you have a certain kind of client, or you can, rip apart and kind of customize it a little bit. And I will throw that script in my Facebook group at the end of the day. And if you don't have access to that, I will get it to you before the end of the class. I see a couple new names on here. So my name's Ryan. I work with Cindy over at Professional Title. Our goal is to bring you guys valuable education and training every single week. We do a Zoom call every week, Monday at 12 o'clock on all different topics, lead generation, technology, social media, scripts, all that fun stuff. And then we do in-person events in your market once or twice a month. Coming up this Friday, we have a database building workshop in your market in the Daytona area. So if you want a seat for that, make sure you get with Cindy. And we're also putting together one or two other fun things that we might do Friday, or we might do later in the month or next month. So looking forward to seeing you guys in person. Some of you I've never met, and some of you I haven't seen in a while. Let's dive in. Let's talk about how to sell high, how to buy low, and how to solve our sellers and our buyers' common objections and common problems. So what does everyone in the world want to do when it comes to real estate? They want to do what they've been saying for years. They want to buy low and they want to sell high. Now, the tough part is if people really wanted to buy low, they had to do it somewhere between 2008 and 2012. And if they want to sell high, they maybe need to do it now. They maybe need to do it in 6 months, depending on the market. They might have need to even do it a couple months ago. We don't really know. We don't have the crystal ball. But the goal today is to help buyers buy low in any market, sellers sell high in any market. And my goal today is to help you guys overcome the objections that's stopping sellers from doing what they want to do right now, which is flipping this. They want to sell high first, and then they want to buy low, but they want to do it at the same time and in the same market. So my goal today is to help you understand the objections that you need to be prepared to overcome, and have a plan to do each of these, and then a script to put it together. So in this market, right, when they want to buy low and they want to sell high, here's what sellers are saying. And the truth is, all of these that I'm going to give you right now, you need to have an objection handler ready for, or a plan ready for. And then I'm going to give you buyer ones in a couple minutes after that. And you need a plan or an objection handler for those as well. And these are kind of non-negotiables. You might not have heard these, or you might not agree with them, or you might not even care about this section, but I'm just telling you, these next like 2 slides, this slide and the buyer one, these are the ones that we're hearing across the state in all different markets, that if you're not prepared to handle this objection, or you don't have a plan in place, you're going to struggle. And a lot of these objections just come from the fact that the realtor, or maybe even in some cases a lender on the buyer side, hasn't laid out a plan, and your client or potential client just doesn't feel comfortable with you yet because you haven't made them feel comfortable. So don't take that as an attack, just take it as a learning point. So some sellers, they're saying, but where will I go, right? Or I don't want to be homeless. These are the 2 most common ones really that we're getting right now all across the state, because they know they can sell now, but they hear that the market is competitive. They see it on social media. They hear it in the news that they might sell and then not be able to find something to buy. So the problem here is usually on us. It's usually as realtors, we haven't made them feel comfortable. We haven't made them understand what this might look like on the sales side, what their options are, not only to buy, but maybe with post-occupancy closing, lease back, short-term rentals, or strategies that we've talked about in the past to guarantee that they're fine, right? And they're not going to be homeless. So, but where will I go? And I don't want to be homeless. Those are actually 2 really great objections, because they're not telling you they don't want to sell, or they're not telling you they're not ready to sell. They're telling you they want to sell. Their only objection is they don't know where they will go. So easy to handle, right? Next is the I don't want to rush to pack and move. These are the people that are worried because they hear something goes on the market, it sells in 3 seconds, and then they write a 21-day contract and they have to get out, and they don't have time or the desire to pack up the house and do all that quickly. And frankly, I don't really blame them. So what do we need to do? We need to help them understand post-occupancy closing, short-term lease back, right? Or that they can just dictate the terms that they want. The seller doesn't have to accept the 21-day closing. They just don't have to do it. Right. Then we hear sellers say, I want to sell it myself, or I'm going to sell it myself. Common problem that we hear, especially whenever the market heats up or gets crazy. And you know what? It's been unique. The last 2 years have been really unique for sellers, especially those trying to sell on their own. Because what we've seen happen all across the state, NAR says that actually FAR, Florida Association of Realtors, says that the average across the state for days on market for a home that sells as a FSBO is 7 days. The average days on market for a home that sells with an agent is 7 days. So FSBOs are thinking, oh my God, I could sell it just as fast as the realtor. The key problem or the key difference is the amount it's sold for. On the low end, homes sold as a FSBO are selling for 5.5% less. On the high end, 26% less. So when they say I'm going to sell it myself, you have to go towards, are they trying to net the most amount of money, or are they just not like realtors, or are they just not educated? And a lot of times they're just not educated, right? If I wait, I'll get more for it. Sellers are saying that all the time. And truthfully, for the last like 10, 12, 14 years, they haven't been wrong, right? If they bought in 2008 and then they decided to sell, and then they said they're going to wait 6 months more instead, their house was worth more than it was 6 months before that. Right now, every 6 days that they wait, it seems like their house is worth more than it was 6 days before. So I get that. However, in my opinion, the end of that is coming soon. It might already be here, right? We see inflation at all-time highs. We see interest rates climbing up literally every single day over the past 6 months. We see prices climbing up every single day. However, the balancing act is starting to get out of whack, because with affordability going away, rates going up, inflation going up, wages not going up. So affordability is disappearing, and that's taking buyers out of the pool of buyers. And if there's less buyers in the pool competing over a house, that means there's less buzz, there's less multiple offers, which means in the long run, there's less price, right? There's less money to be thrown around. We're also seeing the stock market and the crypto markets doing horrible the last couple of weeks, right? So what does that mean? A lot of cash gets cleaned out. A lot of equity and things get cleaned out. So the seller's saying, if I wait, I'll get more for it. Honestly, over the last couple of years, really over the last 10, 12, 14, maybe 15 years, I actually think that's true. However, personally, I don't think that's true right now. I don't know if they wait more, if it's going to be worth more, even if it's just a couple of weeks, right? Look at the stock market today. I know when I opened up my phone, I almost threw up. Everything is red. Crypto, everything is red. Inflation, everything is green. It's up, right? Which is not actually good for us, but it's high. So when we look at all these things, the longer they wait, are they really going to get more for it? They're looking back, and when they look at last year in 2021, the average growth in home prices in the state of Florida was 21.3%. And when we look at that, I can understand why they think if they wait more, it makes more sense. But we've already seen that slowed, right? In most markets, we're down to 1% or less a month in price growth. And moving forward, are we going to see that continue? I do think we'll end the year with prices higher than they were last year, but nowhere near as high as they were, going over the last year. And because of affordability, that might not mean they'll get more. What about, I'm not fixing or doing anything to the house? I get why they don't need to, right? But does that mean that they won't help them make the most amount of money? Usually no. Fixing stuff, preparing things, cleaning, painting, doing all that stuff, getting everything ready, and making the house look as good as possible is always going to net you more money, right? So that's just a silly one. And I'm not allowing inspections or appraisals. I get why they've done that in the past. I totally get it. It's not required. But even a pre-inspection, a pre-appraisal is going to guarantee you get more money, right? Absolutely. So all these things that sellers are saying, before we move into the plan section, you need to make sure you can handle, because if you can't handle these objections, you're not going to be able to help them sell high and buy low. It's just not going to be possible. All right, next, buyers. These are the ones that buyers are saying right now, and you need to be able to handle these as well. I'm going to wait for the market to crash. I love that one. We've been hearing that for like 10 years, right? Do we think the market's going to crash? Who knows? I don't think so. Might flatten out, but who knows? I'm going to wait for rates to go down. This one's kind of a tough one right now, because, when we look a year ago today, you could buy a house with the rates in the 2s. If you were a strong borrower, if you were an average borrower, you were in the low 3s. So when we look a year back, I get why they think that might happen, because there's some recency bias. But if we look now, right, an average qualified buyer is in the mid to high 5s. A not qualified buyer, like not a very strong buyer, is in the high 5s. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see the 6s. No doubt in my mind that we're going to see the 6s by like the end of June. So when we look at something like that, they say, I'm going to wait for rates to go down. They might be waiting forever. I don't think we'll ever see the 2s again, like ever, maybe not in our lifetime, or maybe not in mine. Are they going to go down? Yeah, there's going to be a day here, a day there, maybe even a week or a month where they trickle down a little bit. Are they going to go down 3 points to what they were, 12 months ago? Absolutely not. So if they're waiting for this, they're going to be waiting forever. And every day that they wait, it's getting more expensive. Now, these first two, usually it's really a sign of something else. It's really a sign that they've lost out in this competitive market. Maybe they weren't working with the best agent. Maybe they weren't working with the best lender. So they're just using these as excuses to avoid confrontation or hard work in finding a house or negotiating. A lot of people just don't like that. They don't like the sales part of it. They might want a new house, but they don't want to negotiate or get beat out or have to make tough decisions. So they just say these things to avoid it. My favorite one, I'll just rent for a year and save money. I don't know about you guys, but in like the history of time, I don't think I've ever met someone that actually rents for a year, actually saves enough money to put themselves in a better situation next year. They usually just realize, man, I shouldn't have waited. Right. And especially now when rent rates up like crazy, right? Most places in Florida, it's 40% more expensive to rent than it is to buy. So let's look at that. Crazy. Then let's talk about inflation. Versus wages or versus income, right? They're not earning as much as inflation is pushing the cost of things up. Just not happening, right? And then let's just think about saving. In the market that we're in with rates going up, prices going up, rent going up, inflation going up, someone would have to save usually somewhere between like $4,000 and $5,000 a month to outpace what's happening in the market, to be able to actually be in a better place next year. So they need to save or maybe do some debt pay down or whatever, but it would have to be about $4 or $5 grand a month to really outpace, what's happening. And when we look at that, most people aren't even earning that. Forget about saving that. America is the worst when it comes to savings, right? So is this really going to happen? Absolutely not. What about, I don't need to get pre-approved, I can afford it. Trust me is my favorite line there, right? I love that. They think they have a great job or they have a nice car. You should just believe them. So this usually means they have not had a good presentation from a realtor, because no one in their right mind is going to succeed if they don't have a pre-approval. We all know that, right? But how hard are we pushing on that presentation to make sure they're pre-approved really into underwriting? We need to have them as strong as possible to even have a chance in this market. What about the market is too crazy? That usually just means they have no one helping them navigate it, right? Or they're trying to figure it out on their own, or maybe with a weaker agent or someone that doesn't really know or have a plan. So we hear that all the time. What about, I don't want to buy at the top? I can't blame them for that. If I'm being honest, do we know when the top is? No. If we did, we probably wouldn't be working. But when we look at this, who knows when the top is? We know we're definitely not at the bottom right now, right? That's the only definite. We're not at the bottom. We know we're really high. Is at the top? Who knows? But you also need to dive into their motivation. Is this a 15-year move for them? Are they going to be here for a while? Or they're putting their kids in a school district? If so, who cares if they buy at the top, right? And it falls off and then comes back. It doesn't even matter, because it's going to come back. As long as they can afford the payment, that's the big thing. We need to get people, understanding the difference between cost and price, right? Price is the sticker price on the house. Cost is what it costs per month. If they can afford the payment per month, the cost, then they're going to be there long term. That's all that matters there. And what about, I can't compete against multiple offers? Sometimes that's right. I understand in this market, if they're FHA, if they're VA, low money down conventional, very often they can't compete, especially if they're in any of the like government funding programs. It's very hard. But we need to make sure we have a plan. We need to make sure our lender has a plan. They're as qualified or pre-approved as we can possibly get them. And we need to work on the buy low strategy that you're going to get in a minute, because although they can't compete with multiple offers, it's your job to put them in a situation where they don't have multiple offers, and then they don't have competition. So we're going to talk about those strategies here in a minute. So it's time we teach them how to sell high and buy low, right? We're flipping it from buy low and sell high, because most of the time what we need to do is sell first and then buy. And this is a unique kind of perspective on this, because the problem is, or the goal is, that they're going to do both of these in the same market. Right? They're going to sell high in the market that they're in and buy low in the market that they're in. They're going to do both at the same time with you if you have a plan. And here's how. If we want to talk about helping the sellers sell high, they need to do a bunch or all of these things that I'm about to show you on this plan. And you need to be able to present this to them with confidence and then actually execute. And if you don't stand your ground on some of these things, you're not going to help them sell for the highest. You might be able to help them sell quickly, and I understand that, but the purpose of the class is to help them sell for the highest, right? The most amount of money. We're not just talking about the quickest time frame. I get that that's not very hard right now, but selling for the actual top dollar, here's the plan. And this will work in any market, by the way. This is not just now when the market's crazy. First of all, the answer is always to sell now with an agent and on the MLS, okay? It's not to FSBO it. It is not to do it as a pocket listing. It's not to not put the sign in the yard because we're scared our neighbors are going to see it. It's not to not put a lockbox on the door, right? None of those things make any sense. If they want to sell high, they need to sell now. They need to sell with an agent, and they need to sell on the MLS. Number two, they need to not always take the first offer. Sometimes the first offer is the best, I get it. But if we're getting ourselves into a situation where we have a fiduciary responsibility to a seller to help them get the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of stress, and we always just take offer number one, we're not guaranteeing we're getting the highest amount. We're getting the quickest time frame. I get that. And if you have a seller that says, I don't care if I leave some money on the table, I just want to be out today, fantastic, take the first offer, right? But what our goal is right now is to help them get the most amount of money, to sell high. Number three, they do not need to sell in one day to get that most amount of money. Okay, get that out of your head. And by the way, for you as agents, selling in one day, I know we love to talk about it on social media, but it's not actually the best thing. It doesn't let your marketing work. It doesn't let you get enough exposure. It doesn't let you get enough opportunity to build your business. And it's not always the right move for the seller. So we need to have a plan. We do need to use number four, an open house. If we are selling without an open house for our sellers, I honestly believe we're leaving money and opportunity on the table. There is nothing that will build a buzz and drive multiple offers and competition like a really solid in-person open house. A digital open house doesn't work. A tour, a slideshow, a video, pictures, none of that stuff is the same as having 50 people in a house fight over it. Nothing. Right? So if we're not doing an open house, not only are we shortchanging our seller, but we're shortchanging ourselves, because then we don't have the reason to do the activities that are tied to an open house. So if we want to help them sell high, we need to make sure we have a plan to generate the most amount of views possible. And listing on a random Tuesday at 12 o'clock and then taking the offer that comes in at 105, I get it makes for a nice social media thing that you sold it in an hour and 5 minutes. However, that is not the plan that's going to generate the most amount of views, right? You're not getting the most amount of eyeballs. You're not giving the most amount of opportunity. So if your goal is to help your seller sell high, having a plan to generate those views needs to be in the plan. And what does that usually look like? It's a 7 to 10 day process to selling the house, right? You shouldn't just be listing a house on a random day and taking whatever offers. You should be listing it on a Monday, doing no showings until the weekend, then loading up open houses for the weekend, and then letting everybody fight and drive multiple offers and take one Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. That's how you're going to get more views, not in 1 hour, right? If you list a house at 12 o'clock and you're under contract by 1 o'clock, 99% of the buyer pool hasn't seen that house yet because they're working or busy, or their realtor's working or doing something else, right? There's no chance you're getting the full exposure, which means not enough views, which means not enough money, right? Think auction style, right? They never do an auction and the first bid wins. That would be ridiculous. That would mean least amount of views, least amount of money. Why are we doing that with our sellers? We need to take professional photos and videos no matter what. One of my good friends is a photographer, videographer, has a media company. And he said the thing that's the most frustrating about the last 2 years is the amount of people canceling on them, because they'll book a shoot for, let's say, Friday. They'll list the property on Wednesday, go under contract by Thursday, and then cancel the shoot. And we all cannot believe this, because not only does it not represent the seller well, but it doesn't represent you well, right? It means your brand is going to have one photo sideways shot out the window of your car while you're driving by, or one cell phone photo, which just is not good enough, right? This is your brand. Imagine if Nike said, you know what, the next time we release a pair of Jordans or Dunks, I know they're going to sell quick, so let's just leave the swoosh like off the side. The box doesn't need to be orange. We don't need the white swoosh. We don't even need the name on there. Just put the size and, like, you know, who cares? We don't need to put the nice laces or finish the color. We know they're going to sell anyway. So what does it matter, right? It's the same exact thing. It would deteriorate their brand just like it deteriorates yours when you skip out on this. 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years later, when someone looks you up and looks at your past listings and they see that one of them had one picture, and you might think, oh, it was great, I sold the house really fast. That's the look of your brand, is that you take one picture to sell a house, which is horrible, right? That doesn't work. It might work now because the market's easy if you're a listing agent. I get it. But it makes you look bad when things flatten out, or you actually have some competition that your listings have one picture. We should be taking those photos and those videos, building our brand, no matter what. That listing that you put out is your inventory. It's your product. If it looks like crap, the next seller that sees it is not going to want to work with you. The coming soon feature, if you have any coming soon allowed in your market, which, just so you guys know, everybody has 48 hours, right? You have 48 hours to get something in once the documents are signed. So you always have 48 hours. Some markets allow longer. My market's 21 days. Some are shorter, some are longer. I get it. If you have any sort of coming soon availability, use that. I'll leave it at that, because every market and every MLS is different. Multiple offers equal more money. If you are encouraging your seller to not take multiple offers, or to just take one or take the first one, you're missing out. Multiple offers will always equal more money. If you want to help the seller sell high, you need a plan that includes all of these, and you need to sell it now, and you need to sell it on the market, period. Now let's switch over to buyers here. Okay. How do we help the buyers buy low in the same market? All right. What do we do? First of all, they need to buy now. They need to buy with an agent, and they need to buy off market. And we'll talk about all these. But if they want to buy low in this market, this is the only combination that works. They need to buy right now because it's going up tomorrow, right? They need to buy with an agent so they have negotiation and representation, and they need to buy off the market because as soon as it gets on the market and there's competition, they ain't buying low anymore. So first of all, they do not need to buy the first house. You need to know that, and they need to know that. If their goal is to buy a house quick and they don't care if they overpay, fantastic. Let them buy the first house. If their goal is to save money and buy at the lowest possible price, they don't always need to buy the first house, right? And you need to help have that conversation. You need to help them find FSBOs, because FSBOs, we know the stat for the state last year was some markets 5.5% cheaper than retail, other markets 26% cheaper than retail. So no matter what market you're in, we're going to get a deal that's cheaper, somewhere between 5.5% and 26%. So if they want to buy lower, any of those numbers or anything in between is lower than what it would be on the market. So no brainer. We need to find the uneducated sellers who don't understand marketing. Now, some of these are FSBOs. Some of these are the people that do the pocket listings. Some of them are the people that put on Facebook Marketplace. Some of them are the ones that hire the discount brokers where they pay $500 and put it in the MLS and there's no pictures, no marketing, no description, no showings, right? We need to find the uneducated sellers. If they're not educated enough to hire a professional to sell the house, we're also going to out negotiate them when it comes time. And that's your job, right? That's part of the deal of working as a buyer's agent. We need to find the sellers who do not want a listing agent. Those are the ones that are saying they don't want representation, right? They don't want someone having their back. Fantastic. We'll have our buyers back and make sure we beat you up then. We need to find those in the database or just out in the world that need to sell, right? Not only that want to sell, but they need to sell for a certain reason. Whether it's foreclosure, short sale, forbearance, tax delinquencies, whatever, the ones that need to sell are always going to lead us to a better deal. We need to have a plan to find an off-market deal. The off-market is how you help your buyer buy low or at the lowest point in any market, no matter what. Because if it's off-market, it's not competing with the rest of the world. The exposure isn't there. Just like we talked about for the sellers, we need it on-market so there's exposure. If they're buying on-market, or off market rather, there's no exposure, which means the money isn't there. And that's a better deal. So we need to do the driving for dollars, look at the distressed properties. We need to do the circle prospecting, hit the delinquent taxes, the old expires, right? All the people that are off the market right now are going to be better opportunity. We need to look for the homes where we are the only offer, and your buyer needs to understand that. If we are the only offer, we're going to get a better deal, period. It's no coincidence, right? If we have multiple offers, we might be the winner, right? I'm not saying you can't win a multiple offer situation, but very, very rarely are you going to be the one that comes out cheaper when there's multiple offers. So in general with this, if they want to buy low, they need to buy right now. Right now is always the best time, right? And they need to do it off the market. And you have to have a plan to be able to do this and solve all those objections that might come up that we talked about earlier. Now, what I want to do is I want to give you a little script. This script is designed for people that want to sell right now. So a seller that wants to sell now at the top, but they also want to buy right now at the bottom. So this script is designed for that. Now, if you're only working with half, right, where you're only working with someone that wants to sell now and they don't need to buy, or buy now and they don't need to sell, you can chop this up and switch it around however you want. And I will put this script on the Facebook group later at some point tonight. So here's how it goes. We're going to say, hello, seller. Have you heard of the age-old saying, buy low and sell high? And they're going to say whatever. So blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the things I specialize in is helping my sellers sell high and buy low. I'd love to get together with you for 20 minutes to show you how I accomplish this. Are you available today at 2 or would tomorrow at 4 work better? Now, if they say yes, just close them, right? Don't continue on with the script. If you get the yes and you can book the appointment, just book it. If they say no, you're going to say, you see, seller, even in the hardest market in the history of real estate, I've been successful in this. And you'd be doing yourself or your family a disservice by not hearing about it. Selling high in this market today involves selling on the market with me with a 7 to 10 day plan to ensure you sell for the highest amount of money possible with the least amount of stress and a time frame that makes sense for you. Once we do that, I will use my skills to help you also buy low by getting you into pre-market and off-market opportunities with sellers not as smart as yourself, who don't understand marketing and creating a feeding frenzy like the one I'm about to create on your house. Something I love doing is helping my buyers be the only offer on a property, so they are not a part of that feeding frenzy of multiple offers, and they then get to buy low in such a hot market. So in order for me to put you in the position to sell high and buy low, we need to meet. So with today at 2 or tomorrow at 4, be better. So there's your script, right? Not too hard. But the goal is, of course, getting face-to-face, and then we're going to lay out that plan on how they can sell high, lay out the plan on how they can buy low, and execute, right? So we need to know, in summary here, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know what their objections are going to be and how to handle them. So I listed out all the objections before, and you need to know how to handle those. Number two, you need to have a plan. We went over a seller plan. We went over a buyer plan. So both will work, sometimes at the same times or sometimes individually, depending on the situation that you're in with your clients. And we need to have a script. So you could steal the script I gave you, or if you want to switch it up or change it up or make it your own based on that, the plan that we made, that's cool too. Right. But the goal is always pushing as hard as we can to get face-to-face to show them how we can help them sell high and buy low in the craziest market in real estate history. As the market continues to get harder, guys, these objections are going to get harder and harder, right? Because whenever there's uncertainty, people are less likely to make a move. So you need to be prepared for that. So we need to start preparing because things are getting harder, right? As we're watching the market, which I do every day, days on market creeping up, expireds creeping up, rates creeping up, everything's going in the direction that's, getting out of a seller's market. So we need to prepare for this. If you have sellers right now that are thinking about selling, every day that they wait might cost them in the long run. It might not seem like it right now, right? But I'm telling you, it's coming. And if you're not looking at the market, from a bird's eye view, you might not notice it, but I promise you it's at least going to flatten out here somewhere in the near future. So be ready. As always, thank you guys for your business at Professional Title. We appreciate it. Carrie, thank you as always for the slides and making everything look nice. Coming up, a couple of things. Next Monday, I'm doing 6 tips for strengthening your database. So if you're someone that's looking to build your database, we're going to do 6 tips for strengthening it. Now, besides that, this Friday, we're actually doing a database building workshop. So if you want to learn to build your database, maybe you don't have one, maybe you have one that's not very good, show up Friday, get with Cindy and she'll get you a seat. Show up Friday. It's at the Daytona Beach Chamber of Commerce in the morning, 9 o'clock. Show up for that. And then Monday on the Zoom call, we're going to take it even to another level and give you some tips on strengthening it. So whether you don't have one, you have a weak one, or you just want to get yours better, the database is going to be the thing that helps us survive as this market continues to get harder. So if you're not focusing on it, it's going to be ugly. You're going to struggle. So I want to make sure you guys get that. As always, if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out. If you're not a member of my private coaching group for whatever reason yet, open up your phone, open up your camera, point it at this QR code on the right. This is where the script will go from the class. So if you want the script from today, that's going to be the only way to get it. You have to be in the private Facebook group. It'll go on the files section somewhere tonight. I don't know what time because I'm on Zoom today until 5 o'clock. So at some point tonight, I will get it on, but you need to get in there. The group is free and it is also private though. So you have to request the access. If you hold your phone over the camera, or hold the camera over the QR code, rather, it will pop up a link after a couple seconds and take you right there. So hoping to see you guys on there. If you have any questions, type them in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. And Cindy, do you have anything you want to add before we wrap up?